I'm going to mix a little more medium white into this lighter value. And just a tiny touch of titanium white, just barely, to really sneak up on it. Alright, since my berries are fairly large, I'm going to continue with the same brush, but notice I did not wash it. It's still got the fairly dry paint in it. So we're going to go once more, tip in, get a little bit of that paint on the brush, go back to our toweling, and wipe the excess out again. Now when we come to our surface, we're going to start in the part where we want it the lightest again, and we're going to do the same motion, but we're going to put this in a smaller area. We're not going to go all the way out to the edges of that first lighter value that we put on. This is what is called pyramiding. We're going from larger to smaller. Whenever you put on a highlight and you build your colors and your values, let me load, and you build those up, you always go from larger to smaller. And you always want to first put the brush down in the area you want to be the lightest. Now see, now I'm just kind of tapping this in, making sure not to go all the way to the edges of that first lighter value we put on. Okay, back to the palette. Let's go this way with it. And now we're done with medium white. We're just going to start picking up titanium white. It's a little, that's way too much, so let me dump that off. Come back with just this little bit. And you just gradually add a little more white at a time. It's very important not to jump too high, not to jump too light too soon. Okay? Coming back in with the very same brush. It still has that first light value on it and the second. Load it the same way. Now notice that I'm not putting as much paint on the brush each time as we go lighter. I'm putting a smaller amount of paint on because we need less paint, because we're making smaller areas. Come back here and do the same. Sorry about the shadows. The same dumping off. And let's come up here. Put that in one more time in a smaller area yet than the last one. And I think I still had too much paint in my brush for that one. Still putting it in down in the area I want the lightest first. And I think that we can go one more light value with this. So I'm going to take some titanium white off to the side, and then I'm going to put just a tiny little bit of my value, my darker value, into the titanium white. If you try to mix the titanium white into your darker color, then it's going to end up taking you 50 times more than you actually need. You're going to end up with a great big pile, and you're still never going to be light enough, because if you mix dark into light, it affects the color a lot faster than if you're trying to mix light into dark. So see how quickly we made that really light? and we also used very little paint to do it. If I had tried to mix my white into this pile, I'd still be mixing, and I still wouldn't get the value that I need yet. And then I'd end up with a lot of mix that I'd have to find something to put it on. So here we're going to just barely touch in. You see it on my brush. Let's see. Should be able to see that on my brush. There we go. Move the palette out of the way. Towels come back. Once again, we wipe the excess out of the brush. I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to tap that in. Just barely tapping this light value in. This is the dessert highlight. And there we go. And now we don't have circles anymore. We have berries.